The Weekly starts now.
So I'm here today with Jeff Benach, principal of Chicagoland builder Lexington Homes. Welcome, Jeff.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thanks. And so, Jeff, just to start, could you give us a brief background on Lexington Homes and tell us about the types of building you do?
We've been around since 1973, family business. We have done as much as 1,200 units a year volume. Right now, we're more in the neighborhood of 100 to 150. And that's not 100% because we wanted to downsize that much, but you know, the market in Chicago has never come back with the volume like the other markets have. So you, for the most part, can't do that kind of volume here at a certain price point. We're basically the only multi-locational builder, locally owned and developing that survived from before the recession. At the end of the day, you know, we kind of find ourselves in a unique position. We've done all the housing products out there. We did high rises, mid rises, cities, suburbs, low rise, high rise in both city suburbs. But right now, we're just doing townhomes and single family in the city and suburbs.
Like you said, Jeff, you have a unique perspective on the current state of both suburban and urban markets. And you have communities currently in Arlington Heights, Warrenville, and in the city in the neighborhood of Avondale. So to top it all off, you're also, like you said, building higher density housing. So all of those things they're really experiencing a shift right now during the pandemic. And before we dive more into that, I'd like to know a little bit more about what it was like for you before the pandemic and kind of the beginning of the pandemic in both of those markets. So going into 2020, was it poised to be a good year for Lexington?
Yeah, I mean, it was poised to be an up year from the year before. You know, like I said before, we haven't had any real barn burning, periods of time in housing in the Chicago market since the recession ended, like you do in the other markets. But we were looking to see an increase in some pricing and some of our velocity. Of course, that sort of took a different turn shortly into it. When this thing first hit, it was more of I think the best way to describe it would be more of kind of a freezing up of everybody to see where this was going. It's really worked back to where it's more like normal again. I mean, we're offering all the same virtual stuff, and while nobody has bought a home yet completely virtually without seeing it, and I just don't see that happening anytime soon. We've had a few people who've done virtual appointments, and then they'll come in for their second appointment, but it's really more like a be-back appointment at that point, which wasn't before. So that's probably the biggest shift that we've seen. Because of what I had going in the city this year, I can't really say the big difference between the city and the suburbs is. Also know this, the thing that I had in the city before was basically a hybrid single-family townhome a product which afforded somebody in a townhome type of product a backyard and a roof deck. So if anything, and we had a couple people who bought there who when the pandemic hit, we still had 3 or 4 left. And I know we had one person who bought who was living in a condo downtown that wanted to get out of a multifamily building, but didn't want to get out of the city. So he bought that. Right now, except for our Glenview community, we're doing all townhomes in the suburbs. So yes, we've had people at our Warrenville community, which is basically Naperville, Warrenville, who have come out there partially as a result of what's going on in the city. But it's not, a lot of the people who are doing that, they're looking for more space and more outside space all of a sudden. So if you're talking about townhomes, that doesn't necessarily, I think, create the motivation to get up and move, 25 miles. But again, we had some people who, when the riots were happening, a few people who wanted to panic and get out of the city. And I think one buyer out there was that situation. Again, because we've had mostly townhomes to sell out there, I don't know if we've felt it quite as much. But yes, absolutely, we're still seeing a number of people who that's partly their motivator is either coming out of the city or looking for a bigger home because they think they're going to be home more longer, and they're probably going to be in that house longer, and spend more time there, and that's driven a lot of people.
I'm curious, when it comes to those buyers or prospective buyers, have you noticed any shifts in who is becoming interested in these townhomes compared to maybe before the pandemic?
I'm not sure I've seen a pandemic shift to townhomes from another product because of the pandemic. What we have been seeing for the last 3 years, 4 or 5 years, is a shift of more families looking to be in a townhome versus just single family because they want new. There was a time where when you looked at a piece of property and you were deciding what to do with it, if you knew you were going to go with townhomes or a multifamily product, you didn't care so much about the school districts. That's not the same anymore because especially when it comes to the the elementary schools in a district because, people may not planning on staying there when they're through their kids in high school. A lot of people are buying when they're newly married. They got little infants. They're coming out of the city or from out of an apartment. And maybe they're going to live here for 5 years. And then when they got a second kid that's going to first grade, they'll look for a house. But, we did a community in Park Ridge. We finished about a year ago or so that 3-story townhomes, with a deck in the back, but that's no other outside space. And it was the first time I can remember we sold it to almost exclusively young families. And we were a more affordable way to get into it where, most multifamily starts at 500 and up. So we were 100,000 below that. Which was the pandemic, though. I haven't really seen. What we have seen, though, are townhome buyers who've got more demands for home offices and home spaces in townhomes. And in our townhome product in Warrenville, especially in one of them, we've got an office and then another niche space upstairs. And we have another home in our 3-story rear-loaded townhome product, a flex room on the middle level with the kitchen and great room, which is a lot more harder to provide in a 3-story unit because you've got your square footage spread out over 3 stories, not 2. So you have a smaller footprint for the main level. And we still have had this flex room, which always was billed as either an office or it could be a playroom if we got a kid or whatever it is. And suddenly that, this year we've seen that home get more play than its other counterpart that it's with. Normally the other one would get about, more sales because it's the bigger one. And this would get maybe 30% of the sales. And that's kind of switched.
When it comes to those upcoming projects in the city, has the pandemic and kind of the demands from home buyers, how that shifted, has that impact maybe floor plan design, sales, kind of marketing for those future projects you have coming up?
I'll tell you, it's near Wrigley Field. And it's a pretty good size community. It's going to be 2 different townhome products. And the larger of the 2, which I've been designing this year for that, because we'll open it next year. I can't say that the pandemic really drove a lot of it, but I did go back and make sure we had a workspace in the bigger of those 2 units, which I may have not as prioritized so much. See, I've seen builders say, 3 bedrooms, but now you got a home office. You can make the, 3rd bedroom into office. Okay, that's not, that's not, you're not getting anything more with that. You're sacrificing a bedroom to get an office. So I don't know where the value is of that. I think more and more buyers are wanting flexible spaces because they're, for a number of reasons, not the least of which is they're staying in homes longer, or they're planning on staying in homes longer. So they know that however they're going to set up their home to live now, a lot of people want to be able to shift it around and have to live a different way without having to move.
So what do you kind of predict, if you can, for next year in urban and suburban housing, or maybe even the year after, eventually when we have everything under control? Do you have any predictions?
I don't think there's an urban run forever, people leaving. I just don't think it'll happen. I think once people realize that, you can go to a football game again and sit with people and all that stuff and live normally. I think the biggest shift that we'll see for a while, or are seeing and will see as a result of the pandemic, is the need for flexible, workable space in a house. I do think that homes that offer ways for multiple people to operate in different fashions at the same time while home will be more key and will help, will be more sought after by buyers. But they don't want to, I can tell you, people aren't going to want to sacrifice other rooms for that space. But I think the other big thing that people are looking for is the private outside space.